Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm your host, Duke Oishi.
And I'm your co-host, Maria Kashem.
In our show this time, we'll take a look at how a special new iPad program is affecting the students at Mid-Pacific Institute.
Not only does it affect the students, but it also affects the teachers and the educational process in general.
First, we visited with Bob McIntosh, who runs the tech program, and Mark Hines and Kevin Doyle, two of the teachers at MidPac.
The intent was to give them access to a device that leveled the learning playing field. You know, what we would have in a typical school is some kids would have access to resources, some wouldn't. Some, a teacher would design a lesson and say, okay, when you go home, I need you to do this, but not know what the constraints of the access to technology for the students were. So it's an educational program. You know, we know that the kids are going to also use them to surf the web and check out the latest baseball score when they go home, and they'll be doing other things like we all do with our own technology. But the emphasis for the students is the school owns this device, even though we're giving it to you. The reason we're giving this to you is to empower you to be a learner, and so we want you to use it well. And so there are constraints around not just wide open access, but ensuring that the way we're using this supports learning and a productive, healthy lifestyle. So we worry about saying, well, it's a 24/7 device, so by all means have it open on 24 hours a day, but we do know that students have cycles of learning that work for them, and sometimes a student at 10 o'clock at night, that's the best time they write, and so that's when they should have the tool in their hand. And I think that's the conversation with parent and child and the school that we're continually having about what are the best ways to make sure that it's used well and appropriate. But the goal was to open up the possibilities for learning for those students when and where they needed to. The reason we chose iPads as our main backbone for learning was it met a lot of criteria that we know is the emerging way that technology is used. It's mobile, it's got long battery life, it has a diverse way of sort of being able to be personalized and set up so that it's easy to use. And it's how, if you look at, everything is becoming more that way. We expect our technology to be, useful, handy, and empowered everywhere we go. And the design of the iPad was much more suited for that kind of learning than a laptop was. So we have laptops and we use them when they're the appropriate tool. And we have still computer spaces on campus, and there's times when those are the appropriate tool. But the one that we knew would support the broadest range of learning that we saw emerging for the kinds of lessons, the kinds of experiences we wanted kids to have, we're using the iPad. So that was the natural tool to say, let's put this one in their hands, but let's support the other ways that work when we need to. In the places where we know the right tools to use, then we help those kids use those powerful tools. So as a teacher that works with data analysis in a classroom as a science teacher, I chose a tool that allowed students to powerfully analyze and make meaning of data sets. So they could graph them, they could figure out the mathematical models that lay underneath. And so I used that. But I would have students come to me at the same time and say, I like this tool better because I like the way it represents the data. And my response was, if you can still do the work that I need you to analyze, to make meaning of this, and that tool works for you, great. But you're not allowed to use it just because you like it better if it doesn't do the job it needs to do. So at one level, sometimes we are helping them pick the tools. A lesson I just ran today in my classroom in geometry, there is still not a good tool that was free for the activity we were doing and looking at transformation of geometric objects. And so in my lesson for them, I said, by the way, one of the things you can do to get extra credit from me on this, if you can find me a better tool than the one I gave you today, find it for me, show it to the class, and we'll adopt that one if it's better than the one I've chosen for you. So the students see it as a device that they use every day to support their learning. I actually had a classroom a year ago that had laptop computers in it, and the students brought it in. It was a pilot program, so they were allowed to have laptops. Those students, when they had iPads in their hands, within 3 weeks stopped bringing their laptops because they realized the iPads were the easier tool to use. So I think for our students, even though they're power technology users, a lot of them, they see the iPad as a tool that more than not gets them through all of the things they need to do as a learner at the school. There's examples of artists that want to use our advanced tool that maybe need a desktop computer doing video editing, but for the vast majority. For the teachers, the key thing that we look at is, has their instructional practice changed? Are people doing things differently in the classroom? And things that we know are more powerful. Are they, things that we talked about earlier, differentiating? Are they giving students more choice? Are they using more authentic resources? And all the data that we have to date says there's been a big change in the way teachers are using the iPads to reshape their lessons. But it's a lot of work. For folks like me that have been in education for 30 years, you can't just switch all of your lessons and your ideas about how to teach in a year or 2 years, but the shift is already really noticeable. And then for the parents, I think the biggest challenge and the biggest reward has been their children now have access to the resources they need to learn every day. But there's also that new device in the house that's required more work than we've ever done before when talking to parents about how do we help manage this? How do we make sure it doesn't become just a PlayStation in the corner? And so what are the conversations we have with your child? But again, we saw that as something that was explicit on our part, that we wanted to engender with parents and our community a conversation around how do we use these devices well, and how do we make sure they don't become a distraction, that they become a way to augment the kind of learning we've wanted to do. The system of education that was in existence for hundreds of years is slowly dissolving. And schools, by necessity, have to be different because the world is different now than it was when I was growing up and when my father grew up, and even when his grandfather grew up, or his father grew up, my grandfather. And so as people see these conversations around schools changing, there's naturally pushback. That's not the school I went to. That's not the way a teacher was. I think for schools that are trying to adapt, the community as a whole needs to become more engaged in how schools are no longer a place you just throw kids and leave them, that they're going to become a center of learning that expands through the day and through the year. And so people are going to see more and more of that in their lives, because school isn't going to be just a place that is bricks and mortar and that's all there is from 9 till 3 in the day.
Well, we're standing in the Weinberg Technology Plaza, and we're upstairs here where you're looking at the multimedia zone where digital media art classes are taught, the yearbook classes are taught, journalism classes are taught, and then downstairs we have a technology program that's taught by a teacher, so part of that downstairs is actually her classroom. And then the rest of the space is used in a variety of ways. You see the aquaponics system set up back there in the biotechnology zone. As we go downstairs, you'll see that we've got a full-blown digital studio and virtual studio with a green screen. And then it's also a place where teachers can sign out the space to bring their entire class when they need the power of the desktop computers to work on things like video editing or doing graphic analysis or creating very complicated presentations. And then it's also available for students to drop in. So a student that has a free period that needs to work on a project or finish up coursework, this is the perfect place to come because they've got everything that they need.
What they were doing today on the iPads, they were taking a measure of a population and measuring versus energy consumption. And so they each had to choose their own topics to investigate the database and then look at the data, plot that versus energy consumption, come up with a presentation, a PowerPoint, a show me, or a movie, and then present that.
There was a handful of recommended apps that we had the kids download. And then we purchased on their behalf a handful of apps that we knew were going to be used quite often, one of which was Notability. And that's how they manage all the PDF files that the teachers. It's allowed us to go green, paperless in many situations. So the teacher, instead of handing out a piece of paper, now posts it. And the students go download it, bring it into a program called Notability, which allows them to annotate that PDF. They can highlight, they can handwrite notes, or if it's a form or a worksheet, they can actually fill it out with their finger and then resubmit it back to the teacher. So that app alone has really changed the workflow of what kids are doing. We also set up a web dev server on our campus with the help of the IT department, and that's how the kids are able to manage files. When we talked earlier about laptop versus iPad, that web dev technology is what allows the iPad to do what it couldn't do when it first came out, because now we can move files around. We can move documents around from our campus server, and the kids can access that from home or on campus. So it allows us to create documents, presentations, even movie files, save them in a location where they can get to them then from a desktop computer or from their laptop or their iPad, no matter where they happen to be.
Well, in orchestra, our teacher Elta Masaki has been using a variety of different apps in the program to enhance the music education for the students. One of the apps he uses is called, is from a Sibelius suite, and it's called Avid Scorch, I believe. And the interesting thing about this is it allows a student to practice with their instrument. Let's say they're playing the viola with a violin line, a cello line, and a bass line, all accompanying them on the sheet music. So they can practice as if they're practicing with the entire group of fellow performers here. The other one he uses is an app that acts as kind of an automatic metronome for him with a flashing light instead of a clicking sound. And the third app that they use, it's kind of a really neat one, is they're using an app on the iPad to tune all of their instruments. So it's a tuner that is right there on the iPad. So they're able to have their music on the iPad, their metronome on the iPad, and tune on the iPad all in the same class setting. Some of the teachers that were most suspicious of using the iPad have, as we come into the end of the first year of the project, been the ones who are, in a lot of times, the first ones to grab onto it and really make something interesting and surprising out of the application of the technology to their class. So it's been really eye-opener about how both teachers and students have used it. I don't know, now that we've adopted it, I don't think we could go back to not having it. I think that both the kids and the teachers really see it as an essential part of, essential tool for the sorts of things they do in their classes.
Almost an infinite number of written resources. They've got a high-def camera. They've got a high-definition video recorder. They've got the ability to publish. They've got the ability to create a presentation. They've got the ability to edit a movie, to edit audio files, to record audio files, all on one device. So you've got an entire class of kids that come equipped with all of these different things that teachers typically would have to go to a media center or go someplace else or gather them all up and bring them for a special, unique day. Now every single day, kids are coming to class with all these digital tools in hand. And I think the thing that we've done the best is the way that we've taken advantage of that in the way that we instruct children and the way that we engage children in the learning process. The kids truly feel like this is their device. This is what it is to help them learn, and it becomes their portal, if you will, to all of the curriculum that they're studying in their classes.
Like, we're definitely able to kind of learn more. We have access to a lot more resources as far as, like, you can just Google things at random. We don't always have to go to the library lab, and then there's also the things you can put, like the textbooks on the iPad, so our bags aren't heavy and our backs aren't breaking.
They've made pretty good use of the iPads so far. I mean, there's a lot you can use it for, but again, it's also a potential distraction for people. Hopefully, the only thing we have to bring to school is an iPad and a binder, pretty much for just loose papers.
Before, I was here at the school for a long time, so I was really used to getting like lots of papers and having a lot of like assignments, like an agenda, all these different books and stuff. But I think the iPad just makes it a lot more organized, and it's eco-friendly, which is good.
If the iPad was gone, that would be kind of sad for me, because I enjoy using the iPad for school. It's something I'm extremely grateful for, and it's a huge privilege for students in Mid-Pac to be able to use this iPad.
The way that all of our kids have embraced it and really played a role in helping the teachers, because there was a lot of apprehension among our teaching staff about what am I going to do with this device? And what's going to happen if the kids come knowing how to use it and I don't? And beyond all the work that we did with the teachers prior to the kids getting the iPads, and although we felt like they were pretty prepared for it, I think the way the kids have helped and assisted and become co-teachers, if you will, co-facilitators with their teachers, so that we've accelerated its integration, because the kids love to help and love to take that stage and teach others, help others, troubleshoot. They have provided probably the bulk of the troubleshooting in the classrooms. And the teachers have come to rely on that. So you get this very unique symbiotic relationship between the learners and the teachers in the classrooms. And I think that's what has contributed to our quick success, and the reason why so many people have come from around the country to visit us and study how we've implemented the program and how the teachers are using it in the classrooms. But I think the thing that sets us apart is the how we did it, and what's happening in the classroom. I think we are ahead of the game when people come, even people who have implemented iPads have come to visit us. They have said, how did you get to where you're at in the classroom? The way the kids are using them, the way the teachers are using them. We've really transformed the instructional process. There's an energy about it. It has taken on a life of its own, an energy among the kids, among the parents, among the community, and certainly among our faculty. We've gotten at least once a month on Wednesdays, we do faculty collaboration sharing sessions, and they've been tremendously successful. Our teachers are so excited to share with other teachers what they're doing in the classroom and the successes that they're having. Our focus is really going to try to make things much more student-centered and change the way we evaluate learning so that it's much more of a presentation of what I've learned. Not that we're going to eliminate pencil and paper exams. I don't think that's in our short-term future anytime soon. But what we are going to see more and more of are kids that have that opportunity to say, here is what I understand, and here's how well I understand it. And all of the digital tools that we have on campus will facilitate that process.
All in all, we found MidPAC to be a school with a real affinity for and commitment to technology, and a real vision for how technology can empower kids to find themselves, to be better thinkers and players, and better prepared for their lives and careers in the 21st century.
Good for MidPAC and for its students and teachers, and good for Apple for having given us this profoundly disruptive technology that has changed and is changing our world, not only for the current generation, but the world of our kids, the world to follow. After all, they are our most important product. And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar events going forward.
Check out ThinkTech's 4 to 5 p.m. Drive Time radio series on KGU 760 AM for Energy on Wednesday, Asia in Review on Thursday, and ThinkTech Fridays on Friday. We also stream video and audio from our shows live on the internet. Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech Radio.
On Thursday, May 23rd, the Hawaii Venture Capital Association and ThinkTech will present a luncheon panel program at the Plaza Club entitled 2013 Update on Housing in Hawaii, What We Can Do to Reduce the Costs. The program will be moderated by Harry Saunders, President of Castle & Cook Hawaii. You can sign up for these programs on hpca.org.
And now here's Bill Spencer, President of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, with this week's Spensation.
So, Bill, on May 23rd, a Thursday, we have at the Plaza Club our HPCA ThinkTech monthly lunch and panel program, a 2013 update on housing in Hawaii, waking up the American dream at a cost we hope we can afford. And Harry Saunders of Castle & Cook Hawaii will be moderating. Paul Brubaker, an economist and a provocateur will be making opening remarks. Stanford Carr, developer, is on the panel. Tony Ching, the executive director of the Hawaii Community Development Authority, will be on the panel. Paul Kay from Kamehameha Schools will be on the panel. Nick Vanderboom of Howard Hughes Corporation will be on the panel. John Wallenstrom of Forest City will be on the panel. And finally, John White of Pacific Resource Partners will be on the panel. I don't have to tell you what a high-powered panel that is. That's incredible. Those guys represent billions of dollars of investment in housing in our state. It's going to be something to see them all there together.
Well, this topic has proven to be one of our most popular programs. We, of course, covered housing last year and heard from another stellar panel, many of whom picked up on the notion of building up instead of building out. That is to say, Hawaii needs to build more high rises as opposed to low rises or building out into the suburbs. And a lot of this has to do with targeted transit-oriented development. Headline in the paper a couple of weeks ago was, "Wow," which was one of the comments made by one of the environmental group heads of Outdoor Circle, who was reacting to rule changes that HCDA is contemplating in relation to transit-oriented development. And what are those rules going to do, Jay? They are going to raise the limits on how high skyscrapers can be. Some as high as 700 feet, others as high as 550 feet in Kaka'ako, where before the limit was 400 feet. And that is a big wow.
And the disconnect is you have all those young people trying to establish a livable, workable neighborhood, where they can really enjoy and hang out. And it's going to wind up being in the shadow of these very tall buildings. And the two are they consistent from a planning point of view?
And will the transportation facilities be able to accommodate that many people? I mean, everybody loves their car, and you start talking about building high-density high-rises in this relatively small 450-acre space, which is bordered by Ala Moana on the Mackay side, King Street on the Malka side, P.E. Koi on the Diamond Head side, and South Street on the Eva side. It's a relatively small footprint, but very undeveloped. I mean, it's a wasteland now with Quonset huts and warehouses and small industrial type of activities. So in many ways, it's due for a makeover. But is turning this into a little Shanghai the answer?
Well, there's going to be plenty of contention around it, Bill. There's going to be so much press, so much activity around this. Everyone wants to weigh in. There are not many people live in that area, but everybody from outside that area has a say about it and wants to have a say about it. We're going to see this covered in great detail. And as much as we want to cover housing all around the state in this program, our 2013 update on housing in Hawaii, I have a feeling, Bill, we're going to be focusing largely on Kaka'ako.
It's where the action is, Jay.
Yes, it is, Bill. We'll see you there. Thanks
Can't
a lot.
And now here's Panos Papadouros of the College of Engineering at UH Manoa with a ThinkTech traffic report where he examines Honolulu's traffic congestion one intersection at a time.
So we're looking here at a situation in downtown Honolulu. Where are we here? Well, we're looking at Ala Moana Boulevard. That's the street that goes horizontally. And this is the major twin left turn that comes from Nimitz Highway, Ala Moana Boulevard to turn up to Alakea Street. There is also another left turn that vehicles pile up here to go basically straight across to Halekau Villa, and over here on the white space, of course, would be our federal courts. So this is the network that we're looking at today. And the problem that we're facing with this network is that in the morning, if you use this frequently, what happens is the left turns pile up and they begin to block the main street. And of course, every time we have to have the left turn service to means that they need to cross, we have to stop Ala Moana Boulevard on the opposite way. So it is an area of significant congestion every morning. As you see now, the left turns are going vigorously to go up Alakea, but overall, this part of town, right across from Aloha Tower, let's replay this, is a very congested spot and a lot of concentration with very heavy left turns. Every time we have heavy left turns, we have problems because we run out of a lot of time. When the left turns need to move, nothing else can move because we can have collisions. So the main through movements remain stopped while the left turns are being processed. As a result, at the University of Hawaii, we started looking at some ideas of how to improve the situation. And let me take a moment here to switch to another video so you can see the situation with this improved and the left turns disappear. And also, along with the left turns, you don't have to lose 1 or 2 days, 1 or 2 minutes every day to make this left turn, as well as block a lot of other people here on this major thoroughfare of our city.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech, but first we want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Miko on Maui and Helco on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company, and CEO of CBI Polymers, a tech company in Hawaii.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the gas company, a proponent of the liquefied natural gas initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
Okay, Maria, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Jay Fidel does. For additional times, check out oc16.tv.
Totally, Duke. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com, be a sponsor or volunteer, and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Duke Oishi. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
My name is DJ, and ThinkTech is phenomenal.